Great, 11:01 guys, let me get started. So good morning everyone. Thanks for joining Elite CISO's weekly session that we conduct every Thursday 11 o'clock India time. And today's session, as always, is very exciting. If you look at the title, it is Driving ROI on Your Cybersecurity Program. So previous all the sessions that we have done, I mean, from past 3 years, we are doing these online sessions every Thursday. If I recall, we all the security vendors and partners that we brought in, they talked about their solution, and for them we have to invest money, right? Invest money in the purchasing the solution or services. But today's session is going to be very unique in terms of it is going to talk about how do you find out ROI on your investment, right? I'm sure we'll have to invest something in safe security as well. But again, Harmeet is going to talk about how do you drive ROI in your cybersecurity program, whatever investment you are doing, how do you justify that to your management, right? And this very interesting topic will be delivered by Mr. Harmeet Kalra, who is Director and Head Channels and Alliances at Safe Security. So I'm sure it's going to be a very exciting session today. From my agenda perspective, what you see on the screen is 11:01 or 11 to 11:05 is a quick welcome. And I will also explain the rules about LinkedIn contest, right? I'm sure if you have been joining in past, you know about the LinkedIn contest that we do. And the giveaway for the winner of LinkedIn contest is Apple AirPods, right? So I'll explain the rules just in a bit in terms of how you can participate in the LinkedIn contest. So once we are done with the introduction, we will have good 40-45 minutes with Harmeet, who will talk about how do you drive ROI from your investments. At the end, we will save about 10 minutes for Q&A. You can, if during the session you have any question, don't wait till the end, right? You can put the question on the chat window, and then we have panelists from Safe Security. They will answer your question then and there itself, right? And then we will have about 5 minutes at the end. You can raise your hand. I will unmute you, and then you can ask your question live. I will share the CPE password. We will have two set of Wheel of Fortunes, and we will also have an early access to the in-person session that we are planning on 13th of May, Friday with Thales Security, right? So if you're in the session, you will get early access to that. We have a cap of about 40-45 people only. So if you're in this session, you can get early access to it. And then session is being recorded. All sessions go on Elite CISO's website. And from Wheel of Fortune perspective, the giveaway is soundbar. And for LinkedIn contest, cool Apple AirPods will be given away. Now, next is let's understand how do you participate in the Apple AirPods contest. Okay, pay close attention, guys. So for participating in the LinkedIn contest, what do you have to do is you have to go to LinkedIn and follow Elite CISO's handle. You have to follow Safe Security handle, and then you have to put a post on LinkedIn, and that post is about your learning from this session. Okay, whatever Harmeet is going to cover in next 40-45 minutes, you have to understand that, take good notes, and put a post on LinkedIn along with the participation certificate that you will get. I will show you how do you get the participation certificate. So once you put your learning, then we will review all the submission that you have done, and one lucky winner will be picked. Now, just for example, I want to show you one winning entry from last time. So Mr. Kiran Balsekar was the winner last time with Micro Focus when we had the similar contest. And the giveaway was, I believe, Bose headphones or Apple AirPods. So how does the winning entry looks like, right? You cannot just put couple of lines and put the certificate and assume that you will win. You will have to put some effort, right? So put your learning so that others who are reading your post can understand it, right? So good enough, information over there. Put the certificate, tag Elite CISO as well as Safe Security for today's session, and then put a post like this, which is meaningful, which other read and they can understand it. Okay, that's how the post is supposed to be. And that's about the LinkedIn contest. And the last thing that we do in every session is stand and attend, right? So we throw this challenge in every session that if you are going to sit for the entire day, whether you're working from home or working from office, you might have all these problems, right? Foggy brain and weak apps and everything. So this challenge is to everyone. Stand for at least this 1 hour when you are attending the session. If you stand, you will have all the benefits on the right hand side. Apart from all the benefits, one specific benefit is better brain functioning. If your brain functions better, you will be able to grasp the session better, and then you might win in the LinkedIn contest as well. With this, if you accept the challenge, go to the chat and say yes, you are accepting it, and share your energy. All the yes coming gives a lot of energy in this virtual format. With this, I think I'm 1 minute over. Let me transfer it over to Harmeet for the main session. Harmeet, over to you. I am going to stop sharing now. And a lot of people are accepting the challenge, so that's great. Yeah. Harmeet, you are on mute.
Am I audible now? Yes.
Yeah, you're audible. Thank you.
Thank you for correcting me there. Good morning, everyone. My name is Harmeet. I work with Safe Security, and along with some of my colleagues here, we are on this call to introduce, as Vikas said, this very interesting topic. Definitely, it's a very interesting topic because ever since the last 40 years of the existence of cybersecurity as a business, this is one industry which does not boast of being able to give an ROI. And that's something which the business decision makers really hate. So we're going to talk about this topic today as to how some of the organizations today are enabling their efforts using our platform and driving ROI on their cybersecurity programs. Um, Today's session is more about the why and the what of what we do. And we'll be very happy because 45 minutes allows us only so much time. So in case this topic is of excitement and relevance to you, then we are very happy to set up one-to-one conversations and do workshops in your organization as to how you can also drive ROI on your cybersecurity program. Last thing which I want to just highlight, unfortunately, I started developing a bad throat since last evening. So I will apologize in advance for a little bit of shakiness in my voice. And I just might need to take a sip of hot water during the conversation. So please pardon me for that. And with your permission, now I will start the conversation. So I love to start with this example, which is one of my favorites, from an anecdote which actually happened in 1942 when Professor Albert Einstein was teaching at the Oxford University, and he was the teacher of physics to senior class students. And one day he gave them a test. So once he gave the test later in the evening, Professor Einstein's assistant asked him that, "Isn't this the same test you gave to the same class last year?" So Professor Einstein said, "Yes, of course, it's the same test." So the assistant was very bewildered, and he was like, "What sense does that make? They already know the answers to all the questions. So what are you trying to achieve by giving them the same test?" And to this, calmly, Einstein replied that the questions might be the same, but the answers have changed. And this is the context with which I would like you to spend your time and your mental energies with us over the next 40 minutes, wherein we are going to talk about what are the questions that haven't changed over the last 40 years, but what are the answers which have now changed, and how can you answer with new answers the same old questions to drive your organization's cybersecurity program. So with this being the agenda, I'll go into my first slide. So because we are talking about ROI, and ROI deals with investments because that's what we are searching return on. So let's understand that what is the traditional cybersecurity investment landscape in typical enterprises today. Now, these numbers are based on our own experience of having worked with more than 300 customers globally over the last 10 years of our life as an organization. And these are Fortune 5 companies, and these are mid-market companies in India and the world. So we have a very large range to fall back on this data, but this is not a claim that this is the right data. This is just what is our experience. And a little bit here and there wouldn't mind the point that I'm trying to drive. So typically customers invest money into three buckets when it comes to cybersecurity budget. The first set goes into buying tools so that nobody comes in. The second set goes into running those tools and running operations around those tools so that nothing of value goes out. And then a little bit of money is left at the end because no business would actually like to let you off as a cost center or an investment center by just giving you money and not checking that what happened to that money. So some amount of money is being spent on testing and reporting that what did you do with that $500,000 or 100K or $2 billion or $1 billion that you spent. Now, because we are talking investments in cybersecurity, and I just shared with you at a very high level what are the three large buckets which typically in a customer's mind drives the cybersecurity program. I have to buy tools, I have to run operations, and I have to then report back to the company. Now, let's take a step back and try to understand what is the reason for a customer to invest money in security in the first place. And in our limited understanding of having worked with about 300 customers, as I said, we have figured that there are two fundamental reasons why companies invest into cybersecurity. The first reason is nobody wants to get breached. That's why you buy a lock so that nobody comes in. That's why you buy a DLP so that nobody takes some data out. That's why you invest into a SIM or a SOC or a EDR so that you're able to add elements of cybersecurity across your entire enterprise. Because the ultimate objective is you do not want to get breached. But as all of us know that we are living in a world where the next breach is almost as certain as our next breath. So therefore, some organizations in the world are realizing that having a target of not wanting to get breached is not worthy of pursuit. We need to also factor for a situation that in case I get breached, then what do I do? How do I get my business to continue to run with the least amount of risk? Because if you do get breached, then the next thing that is logical is for you to reduce your risk. Whether that risk is financial, regulatory, reputational, maybe a professional risk as well. Ultimately, everything comes back to financial. So these are the two fundamental reasons why customers invest into cybersecurity. Now, as we have seen, the customers today have reached a stage where there is a lack of confidence on the overall cybersecurity industry at large. Now, there are maybe 1,000 reasons, and all of you might have experienced different reasons to be able to justify the point. But from where we look at the world, there are three significant shifts that have happened over the last 5 years. First, the protectors themselves are becoming targets and victims as well. So you would have heard of SolarWinds or Okta and so many others. And we will definitely hear about many more to come. So customers are questioning that if the protector is himself not able to protect himself, how will he be able to protect me? And this is leading to a lack of confidence. The second is that more is not better. And the statistic which I would like to present to all of you to establish my point is this. This is an excerpt from the IBM Cost of Data Breach Report 2021. It's an excellent document. Anybody who hasn't read it, I would strongly urge you to go ahead and have a look at that. And this particular data point talks about the average time to identify and contain a breach over the last 5 years. So if you see the bottom of the slide, you see in 2017, the average time to identify a breach was 191 days. And the average time to contain a breach is 66 days, so total of 257 days. And if you read through the chart now, you reach a stage where last year, 2021, the average time is consistently increasing over the last 5 years to 287. Now, this fundamentally challenges the presumption that I need to buy more and more and more and better and better and better security products, because eventually I want to avoid getting breached. But is it helping the cause? I'm still getting breached. It is taking me 287 days to, in fact, 212 days to identify that I got breached. And then another 75 days to contain that breach. And I'm sure you know this better than I do, that in the last 5 years, how many new EDR products have been brought out to the market? How many new SIM and SOAR products have been brought out to the market? And so many new technologies have come to the market which are only focused on, okay, there might be 1,000 problems in security. You have solution for 45. I'll give you the 46th solution. It's a band-aid solution. Because if you think like the CEO of a business, he's giving money through the CFO to the security practitioner. And this is what is happening in the real world. So the second thing which is causing the customers to lose confidence is that while we are investing more and more and more, it is taking longer and longer and longer to even identify that we got breached 212 days back. And the last is that, unfortunately, unlike every other industry on the planet, cybersecurity is the only industry, to my knowledge, which does not let the customer know what is the cost of not taking action. And this is not the customer's problem. This onus rests on the industry, on people like me, on organizations like the Checkpoints and F5s and all the 4,500 companies that are there across 32 technology categories in the world. There is not a single OEM which can go and tell a customer, while the customer is making investment of millions of dollars, that, listen, if you do not make this investment, this is the cost that you will incur. And again, while, as I said, there might be many, many other problems in the world, but from where we look at, from our view, our lens of the world, these are the top 3 reasons which are taking away the confidence of customers on investing into cybersecurity. And what's adding to the pain is that they don't have a choice but to invest into cybersecurity. So you're continuously investing, you're continuously doing something which you do not actually want to do, and you do not have any confidence that by making this investment, do I become better or not? And some customers have started shifting their worldview, and many others haven't. So from where we look at the world, we look at a world which is divided into 2 thought processes. The first are kind of customers who are thinking that I do not want to get breached. I do not want to have any financial, regulatory, compliance loss or reputational damage. I will continue to invest into best of breed as recommended by Gartner or any IDC or Forrester, etc. And I will keep on becoming hopefully better and better by improving my security because I have bought more products. And this approach is called maturity-based approach. And then there is another divide in the world, very small at this point of time, but very effective with the ones who have taken that approach, is the evolving approach where the customers are thinking it is impossible that I will not get breached. So what can I do? I'll focus on my risk. I will focus on keeping my financial, regulatory, and reputational risk within my affordability, within my tolerance. And the only investment I will make is into that technology, which will allow me to continue to run my business even if I get breached. So therefore, I will become better and better by reducing my business consequences and business risk. And this approach is called a risk-based approach. And while there are many examples available, the one which is my favorite is this research by McKinsey & Company, where they did this experiment some time back, where they took the maturity-based approach and they deployed the highest levels of defenses around everything in a given environment. They spent a certain amount of money doing that. And then they stress tested that environment. They tried to break into that environment and see how much they were able to breach and what is the loss they were able to cause. And then they dismantled the entire maturity-based approach by putting in best of breed and multiple layers and all that. And then they reconstructed the environment based on a risk-based approach. So they first did a study of where is my greatest risk sitting. And then basis that risk, they went ahead and started investing into security measures only in the places where the risk existed. And they figured out that by spending less than 1/3 the money by covering the technology gaps in their environment, because that's the biggest vector of getting breached from an end outcome perspective. Sorry, it's not a vector, it's the end outcome perspective. Vectors can be any other. But by taking the risk-based approach, by spending 1/3 of the money they were able to keep the hackers away from the riskiest assets. And this is a beautiful document available. I'm very happy to share it with the audience later if somebody's interested. So even the research done by the industry supports the fact that, or the argument that we should move to a risk-based approach. Now, what we covered so far is the why of what we do, right? So we are a company which has a security platform where, to the same questions which existed forever, last 40 years, that if I'm investing money on security, if I do not want to get breached, and if I want to reduce my risk, what is my breachability right now? And what is my risk right now? If I do not have the answer to these questions, it means I do not have a starting point. It's like I telling myself, I want to reduce my weight and I want to come to 70 kgs, but I do not know whether my weight right now is 170 or 50 kgs. So I do not have a starting point itself. So I'll just keep on making efforts without ever tracking whether I'm moving towards my objectives or not towards my objectives. So the risk-based approach is what we are the proponents of. And that helps us bring to the market a capability. And I'm going to show you the outcomes of that capability now over the next few slides, wherein we are able to engage into conversations with customers. And one of the highest levels of engagement can be the board or the executive leadership, because they're the ones who are asking questions. How safe is my business? Is my business safer than yesterday or last year? We spent $2 million on cybersecurity budget last quarter. Did that make me better? These are the kind of questions which we are not able to answer as practitioners. So what we are able to do now, and just imagine you having this capability in your hand, that on a single click, you are able to generate a report in your organization with which you can go ahead and face your entire executive leadership and give them artifacts which look like this. Go and say that my overall dollar value of risk on which I am sitting right now is $123 million. Now, to the untrained eye, this is a very shocking statement. But if you look at the green arrow, it says that last year it was $146 million. So the effort that the security team has put in the environment over the last 1 year has actually reduced the risk by $23 million. This is the first insight you can give. Imagine yourself having this conversation with your leadership, who are, I'm sure, non-technical people. And the only terms that they understand are dollars and cents and percentages and INR and numbers. And you can also go ahead and tell that we as an organization are better than the industry average, because the industry average is $136 million. And you can also represent what is the likelihood of various breaches impacting your environment, which is shown on this slide. So you can go ahead and tell your leadership that if a ransomware kill chain comes inside my organization, there is a 77% chance that I will get compromised because of ransomware. Whereas if the attack vector is business email compromise, there's a 23% likelihood. And this results into this kind of loss for us as an organization, because I am absolutely sure that there would be no leader in the world today who has not heard the word called ransomware. Because the impact of the ransomware is money. It's not a technical impact. Because you stand to lose to give ransom, which is money, so everybody understands what ransomware's impact is. But they don't understand what is ransomware, how does it happen? So as a practitioner, you can now go and give this visibility to your leadership, not only across various attack vectors. It can be DDoS, it can be phishing, it can be many other attack vectors. You can also give visibility around what is the likelihood of a breach to happen, which means you are now helping them measure the breachability in your organization, which was the first reason why they gave you money to spend on cybersecurity. And you're also giving them a way to look at the risk associated if a ransomware attack becomes successful. And now compare this situation that you would be in or you could be in with, I presume, a current situation. And I want to extend a kind of a cautionary apology that I'm not making a statement specifically for the audience on this call. This is based on our general understanding with customers globally, even customers who spend $1 billion on their cybersecurity budget. If a CEO or a CFO asks a CISO or a CIO how safe is the organization, they typically count efforts. We bought 40 firewalls, we invested into SOAR and SIEM, we are looking at EDR, we have given services contract to the top 2 players as recommended by the vendors, we got our audit done by KPMG and PwC. Those are the kind of effort counting which a CXO, whether it's a CISO or a CIO, is presenting to the board or the leadership, that this is the efforts that we have made. And that doesn't make them happy, the leadership, because they are expecting you or the practitioners to come back and let them know that what happened after spending the $2 billion. And as an industry, this is possibly the first attempt and the first successful attempt at giving a view that what is the cost of not taking action. And if I spend 2 more minutes before moving to the next phase of the discussion, which is about what is ROI? ROI can mean different things to different organizations. And from the worldview that we have based on our interaction with those 300 customers, out of which 50 are active users of our product and our platform, we are looking at conversations where the customers can call out the reduction in breachability and reduction in financial risk, which were the first slide which I spoke about, the fundamental reasons why we talk about investments into cybersecurity. We do not want to get breached, so we are able to tell what is your breachability as a number and as a percentage. And we are also able to tell what is your financial risk exposure in absolute dollar value terms. And I'm sure most of the audience would hear, in fact, everybody, I hope, would agree with me, that the previous slides were not technical slides, they were business metric slides. Because you're talking everything as a percentage, as a number, as a dollar value. But as I said, ROI can mean different things to different people in the organization. For somebody, it can be productivity. I know of at least 15 customers who have minimum 5-member teams whose only job is to prepare a quarterly board report for the security committee review, for which they have to actually look at 25, if they have 25 products in their environment, they have to download 25 reports from 25 different dashboards, bring them into a view that makes sense. And this is all manual effort, by the way. So imagine if we were able to free up those resources and enhance productivity. And when we go and work with customers, we actually are able to quantify the amount of money that the customers would be able to save in how much time only by virtue of productivity loss reduction or increasing productivity. Because that mathematics is very simple and the entire industry knows it. Unfortunately, except the cybersecurity industry, and that's what we're trying to change. For somebody else, it can be SLA efficiency. For somebody else, it can be uptime. For the chief compliance officer, it can be compliance adherence. And there can be many more factors. Now, in management class, one of my most favorite lessons was this. Whether it is, and this is exactly the words of my teacher, who said that whether it is Ratan Tata or whether it is Mukesh Ambani or whether it is Kamal Pan Bhandar, every business leader in the world is only concerned about 2 things: how to access his customers in the cheapest possible way, and how to access his customers in the fastest possible way. These are the 2 things that he sleeps with, every business leader in the world, and these are the 2 things that he wakes up with. Now, the definition of access can be identification of customers, reaching out to those customers, acquiring those customers, upgrading those customers, upselling and cross-selling to those customers, retaining those customers, etc., etc. Now, why fastest and cheapest? Because these are 2 things which are measurable. You can measure fastest by time, and you can measure cheapest by cost. So the idea of driving ROI on cybersecurity investments is coming from the fundamental fact that if we are able to find what matters to organizations, because in some organizations, productivity can be a far more important metric than maybe uptime, and vice versa. But if you look at these 6 elements which are captured over here, they are all representable either as a percentage or as an hour or as a dollar value. Everything is a number, understandable by everybody. And because they are measurable, they help you drive return of investment. And how you look at driving return is the metric that you choose as a business. Our recommendation is that the starting point should be breachability and risk, because these are the 2 fundamental reasons why we started investing into cybersecurity in the first place. So now let me land the conversation, the second last set of my slides, about how does SAFE actually help in this cause? What are we able to do? So SAFE is the full form of the word SAFE is Security Assessment Framework for an Enterprise. So we are basically an assessment framework which helps an organization execute what is in their mind. If you decide that I want to deploy a risk-based cybersecurity program, then we are the framework on which you execute that program. Right? So what we are able to do from an execution perspective, and this is the world that we are changing for cybersecurity. We are moving the needle of conversation from cyber security to cyber risk. Because every investment, no matter where you make it, has to have a return. So you can either be a cost center for an organization or you can be an investment sector. But both deal with how much money you spend and what you get in return. So from that perspective, we have this model or this framework basis which you can manage your enterprise-wide risk in 3 ways. That's the driving the ROI program. You can drive the ROI program in 3 ways. The first is how do you mitigate your cyber risk, which means how do you reduce your cyber risk? So we are able to help organizations mitigate their cyber risk. First of all, we help them understand what is the cyber risk they're sitting on today. So let's say we are able to tell them that assuming that today you are sitting on the cyber risk, as you see on the left-hand side of your screen, is that you're sitting on a cyber risk of 123 million. Now, if you follow the recommendations which are prescribed by the product, based on the assessment of your environment and the critical gaps, based on the context of your business, specific to your business, if you do what we ask you to do, you will be able to reduce your risk from $123 million to $99 million, which means if this is the roadmap for the next 1 year, whatever investment you make, 2 million, 5 million, 10 million, whatever you make, the return of that investment will be $24 million. The other thing that we do is provide the visibility of something called as the breach likelihood in an environment, which is represented by a score called SAFE score. And let's say if we find out that today your score is 1.49, then with the recommendations that we provide, and if you execute them, you will be reaching a stage where your score will be 2.35. And I'm sure all of us understand scoring, right? It is similar to the Uber, Zomato, 5-star restaurant, the same thing which the bell which rings in our mind when we see that our Uber driver has a rating of 4.9 versus 1.2. The same feeling that we have if we have to take our most important guest to the most significant dinner, then we choose a 7-star property. 7 number or 4.9 number gives us a confidence on our decision. That's what's the meaning of the SAFE score. So we give a SAFE score to every organization on a scale of 0 to 5. 0 means bad, which means the organization has a bad security posture. So the closer your score is to 0, it represents a poor security posture. The closer you are to 5, it represents a strong security posture. So we are able to give both the views. The SAFE score, and for most customers, this is good enough because they have this confidence based on the scientific way in which we provide this, that today my score is 1.2, and tomorrow my score becomes 2.3. So something is becoming better. But for some customers where the stakes are higher, they also want to translate this core improvement into dollar value reduction of loss. So this is the first thing called mitigation. Mitigation means improving the security posture of your existing environment by doing patchwork. By doing patchwork, by doing vulnerability management, by doing so many things that the product recommends you to do. The second pillar of our approach is transfer of risk. So first was mitigation of risk, which dealt with the objective of improving your security posture of the environment so that it becomes difficult for a hacker to be able to hack you. The second piece is the transfer of risk, where we help you marry your risk profile and help you invest into the right cyber insurance policy so that you can transfer your risk to a cyber insurance company. So if you're already having a cyber insurance policy, we help you fine tune that because different policies cover different attack vectors in a different way. So it might so happen that you as an organization have a 23% likelihood to get breached by ransomware. And if that happens, your loss is $4 million. And your cyber insurance covers that loss against ransomware to 100% amount, which means if you get breached by ransomware, you go and ask for coverage from your cyber insurance company, they will cover you 100%. But if you do get breached by, let's say, DDoS or phishing, for which your likelihood to get breached might be 80%, 4 times higher than getting breached by ransomware. And if you do get breached by a DDoS or phishing, the cyber insurance company will only cover that loss vector, that attack vector, by only 20%. So if the loss again is $4 million or 10%, so the loss is, whatever, 25%. So if the loss is $4 million, you will get only $1 million in return. So you'll have to pay from your pocket $3 million. So mitigating the risk, which means improving your security posture to make it more and more difficult for the hacker to be able to hack you. Transfer of risk to cyber insurance so that you know that how much coverage your cyber insurance policy gives you. And finally, acceptance of risk, because every business in the world starts with an acceptable risk, which is called residual risk. Now, if the overall business risk, not only cyber, but the overall business risk of your business is, let's say, $200 million, for which they have factored that I can sustain a business risk of $200 million or $20 million or $5 million, whatever that number is. Everybody is having that calculation. How much of that is cyber? Let's say if your overall business risk is $100 or $200 million and cyber is $50 million, which means 25% of the overall risk that you are sitting on is coming from cyber, for which the CISO or the CIO are responsible. But unfortunately, they have never had the mechanism available at their hands to be able to handle the risk conversation. And that's what we are bringing on today. So we help customers drive ROI through their cybersecurity program by helping them mitigate their risk. After we've helped them identify the risk, help them mitigate the risk, help them transfer the risk, and help them accept the risk. And in this way, we are able to actually add a lot of credibility to the position of the CISO and the CIO in an organization, because now for the first time ever in the history of cybersecurity, we are able to help customers drive business-centric conversations in their environment, which has never ever happened in the past. And that's what we are able to do. The last part of our conversation today, and I'll wind up in another 5-7 minutes, is a very important element of what our experience has been on what you need to do really. Because if you look at cybersecurity as an area, I already shared with you that there are 30 plus technology areas called out by Gartner. There are 4,500 products that exist in the market. You can buy so much, and you can, with the maturity-based approach, you can go ahead and try to cover everything. But every organization has a limit for the appetite of technology and the appetite of commercials. I do not know of a single organization which has unlimited resources and unlimited budget. So therefore, it's extremely important to first identify where is my real risk happening. And a simple example to explain this is like this. Let's say Vikas and I are two hackers. And we come from, as an organization, we come from a very, very strong ethical hacking background. So we know this for sure. Let's say Vikas and I are hackers. Now, Vikas is a highly trained, highly funded, highly competent, highly resourced, and highly motivated hacker. He has no dearth of money, no dearth of time, and no dearth of motivation to cause a breach in where he chooses to cause a breach. And on the other side, there is Harmeet, who just did a 3-month course in cybersecurity hacking. Now, I have limited skills, limited resources, limited competence, limited wherewithal, limited motivation. Everything is limited. Now, you as a customer, which is the hacker through which you would not like to be hacked? Obviously, Harmeet. Because Harmeet doesn't have the intention to cause harm to you. He's just testing his skills. But in the process of that, he will be able to open up some very, very simple loopholes in your environment and let the world know, so that then he can attract all the necessary undesired traffic for you, necessary because of the nature of the activity. So you want to make it more and more and more and more difficult every single day for the hacker to make it difficult for the hacker to be able to hack you. And of course, the hackers who are the likes of Harmeet. So what we have figured out is that, security as a posture sits on technology, people, process, business context, third parties, so many things, right? There are 50,000 things that you can do. But our research tells us, and we have researched more than 500 breaches in the on-prem environments, and we have researched more than 50 breaches in the cloud environment, 50 successful breaches in the cloud environment and 50 successful breaches in the on-prem environments. And we've realized that it is of ultimate importance to the starting point has to be technology. It has to be endpoints and servers so that we can drive configuration hygiene and vulnerability management there. And as the customers are moving into the journey of external technology, which is cloud, and it's funny because the reason why customers move to cloud is the reason TCO or is the reason ROI? I spent 2 years on this subject and I realized that 90% of the market is moving to cloud for TCO reasons. And there was one artifact which was published 2 and 3 years back, which said that if so many people are going to the cloud, so many more are coming back from the cloud as well. Because the ones who are coming back, 93% of them went for TCO as a reason. Cloud is ROI. Cloud helps the Lalaji reach his customers, access his customers in the cheapest and the fastest way. Therefore, cloud is an ROI conversation. But for the security practitioner, he or she was operating from a fully controlled world in his premise to a world which is absolutely uncontrollable. So if there are simple gaps in the environment on cloud, and the 50 hacks of cloud that we actually investigated through our hack research team, it told us that 87% of those breaches actually was only a misconfigured S3 bucket or an EC2 instance, etc., etc. Something which is just pure hygiene. But for somebody to maintain hygiene on 40,000 firewalls in the cloud is the most boring job. And for the hacker to find that one firewall, which is N-2, is the most interesting job. So protecting technology internally and externally are the most important reasons or the most important places to start from a risk-based program. And this is what we have seen in a huge number of cases based on the research. So my last section I'm done presenting about what we do, why we do it. I'll quickly share with you some things which I'm sure would be of interest to you, that who has already done this. So we are very fortunate that we have a bunch of customers, those who chose the new answers. And we're very proud of the fact that this is a slide which just represents our India success. But if you look at the interesting part of this slide, we are not relevant to one vertical. We are present across verticals. And the biggest adopters of our business offering are BFSI, healthcare. Healthcare is the strongest emerging, and technology. Because these are businesses which look at ROI. Their desire to drive ROI is very, very high. And the risk is very, very high. Because one breach inside a Capgemini or a Cognizant can lead to devastation. One breach inside a healthcare organization can lead to human life loss. One breach inside a bank, we've all seen that. So these are some of the customers that have adopted SAFE. We have these lots of customers are happy to give us testimonials. These are available on our website. So I invite all of you to look up our website and read the case studies that are published over there. So that's what I had for today for the session. And Vikas, I'm happy to hand back to you. Thank you so much.
Great session, Harmeet. Thanks a lot. Really appreciate it. Very, very interesting insights into it. So let's open the floor for Q&A. Guys, please go ahead, raise your hand if you want to ask any question. So I see Mr. George and Nirav has raised hands, so I'm going to unmute them. Allow mic, Nirav, allow mic. So Mr. George, go ahead, ask your question, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
You're audible.
Great, yeah. Thanks, Hamid. It was a very insightful session, especially in a subject like this, which companies are grappling with currently, right? Right, and that's a very good topic. My question is that you mentioned about the SAFE framework that you have. Is that something, a methodology that is open for us to look at it? The methodology, the approach in which, because this requires a lot of quantification, right? Which is basically risk quantification.
Absolutely, sir. The methodology is available for you, and I'll just quickly answer. The assessment framework is based on a bunch of standards. You can see some of those over here. So we follow a bunch of standards. The assessment framework also takes into consideration the assessment of the organization in its business context, the technology landscape like configurations and vulnerabilities, the cultural landscape like the employee and workforce side of it, the cyber, which kind of gets termed as cybersecurity culture. We look at the governance as to how the organization is executing their policy infrastructure and how does that relate to the compliances. We look at what kind of cybersecurity products are deployed in terms of compensatory controls to prevent risk from happening. And while these inputs are inside out, which is our USP, we also look at what's the organization's reputation in the deep dark web, what's the risk that your third parties are bringing to us. And all this comes together in the form of a control library, a framework of controls. And these controls are accessible across people, process, technology. And in total, the control library that we have is about 180,000 controls. So it's all standard based, as I said. So the entire framework of risk assessment and risk calculation is built on standards. Wherever standards are not available, we have tried to get inputs from academia. So the risk calculation model is built at MIT in Boston. We started in IIT Bombay, then we got introduced to MIT in Boston. So that's where the model of scoring is built in. So yeah, completely standards based. And we are very happy to get into a separate conversation to share with you how the framework looks like.
Great.
Thanks, Hamid.
Great question, George. So let's move forward. Nirav ji, go ahead, unmute yourself, ask your question. Go ahead, please. We have just 5 minutes for Q&A. Okay, Mr. Devnath, you go next, please.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. My question is, how do you cost the losses? Because the whole framework is ultimately coming down to financials. So because in my government organization, the cost of any loss, I mean, cost of any operation, leave alone the loss, is very difficult to estimate in terms of human resource, the revenue losses and all, because too many components are there in that loss.
Vijay sir, namaskar. Nice to talk to you after a long time. Sir, you're absolutely right. And that's the reason I mentioned that ROI can be a financial element, can also be a non-financial element like productivity, efficiency, uptime, compliance, adherence, etc. Depending on what your organization chooses to see. The entire risk assessment framework is operating on something called as a Bayesian model. And whatever I showed to you is all arriving to finding out the likelihood and actually predicting the likelihood of one breach to happen in your organization in the next 12 months. That's one of the outputs of the product that we give out. The financial model is not coming from likelihood of breach, sir. So risk, if as a subject, has two pillars, sir. What is the likelihood of an event and what is the impact of the event? The whole assessment model deals with the prediction of that likelihood of a breach. How do we assess the financials? So there are multiple inputs that go into the product, sir. First, there are a lot of globally accepted publishings like the Verizon data breach investigation report, the IBM cost of breach report, etc. So there are some 7-8 such dossiers which we feed into the product to look at based on the geography, industry, size of the customer. And then we also have our own internal hack research where we check that if an insurance company got breached, what was their cyber insurance coverage? How much did they apply for cyber insurance? What did they get? What did they get declined? So we also have the feed of cyber insurance claims data into the product. So it's a model which looks at what's happening in the real world. And therefore, for every customer's own unique business context, given their geography, industry, and size, I'm able to ask a bunch of questions and arrive at a lower bound and upper bound. And I will just show that to you, how that actually looks in the product, sir. What I'm showing you now is my actual product. And if you see, there are these bunch of 7 questions that we ask. The geography of the company, the industry, the size, the number of employees, the IT entrenchment, what kind of records you hold, and what is the impact of a breach in terms of what kind of data gets breached. Now, if you change the responses to these questions, this value of the lower bound and upper bound will change. And this is how we help the customer arrive at a value between lower bound and upper bound, and basis this. So let's say between $7 million and $48 million is if that is your risk, and given that your safe score of the organization is very low on the scale of 0 to 5 is 0.7, which means there is a 93% chance of your organization to get breached at least once in the next 12 months. And if that happens, the chances being 93%, if that happens, you're sitting on a $44 million worth of loss. Now, as a customer, you have the right to ignore this input and put your own ascertained values, whatever you deem fit as a business owner, that if SAFE's input is not recognizable by you, you can say that I want to put my own values over here. But the idea is, sir, to arrive at the closest realistic dollar value loss. And and this works more in the case of enterprise customers. So I completely agree with you. For government organizations and public sector undertakings, we do not normally go and talk about dollar value loss. We talk more about how you can drive ROI in context of, let's say, productivity or reduction of breachability. That today I am 90% breachable by ransomware. I want to bring it down to 40% by ransomware. Those itself are topics of pursuit.
Great. Let's move to next question. Let's see how many more we can take. So Jay bhai, go ahead, ask your question. Short question and short answer, please, so that we can take more questions. Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks, Vikas. Superb session, Harmeet. Couple of questions and a short one. One is you mentioned about how do you recommend for a cyber insurance and what should be the value of that insurance is. So in that case, is it a very detailed analysis which can, on lighter note, scare the board of directors or scare the CEOs to go for it? So what's normally the process of recommending this? Second is you mentioned about the score and how we can leverage increase the score, safe score and those. So is it also product agnostic or is there kind of a list of tools which you will recommend or which comes as a suggestion saying that, okay, if you want to increase the score, these are the best in class tools which can go for?
Absolutely, sir. Quick answer to both your questions. The process of identifying cyber insurance coverage is the process by which we involve our actuaries, people from our side with your relevant teams. And it's not a very complex activity. So that's one. And detailed conversation can be followed through. Your second question was, yeah, so the entire framework of recommendations is non-product centric. It is completely product agnostic. It is technology centric. So we will be able to make recommendations on technology, not on products.
Great. So that was short question and short answer. So I believe we can take one more question. So Mr. Naveen, go ahead, ask your question now.
Thanks for that. Hi, Harmeet, a great presentation. Thank you so much for simplifying a lot of topics. I'm just asking this question more from a management side per se. So what are some 2 or 3 things that one should keep in mind or parameters that one should keep in mind while filtering out a security solution? You spoke about the Band-Aid solution, which is fantastic, but I just wanted to understand your perspective on what should be some head starters that you should have, when you're filtering out the right security solution.
Sir, great question. Unfortunately, I'm not the best person to answer that question because we are proponents of an approach which is moving away from what security product to buy. We are moving into a world where the world that we are creating is how to improve your security posture without, first of all, buying any additional product. How to make it difficult for the hacker to be able to hack you. And there are lots of things that you can do today without investment into additional products to kind of meet that purpose. And then based on and the product has the capability to recommend technologies based on what we assess and say that for your specific organization, based on your geography, industry size, these are the technology recommendations that we have. So we do not do product recommendation at all. We will only do technology recommendation.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Great. 11:58. I don't think we can take more questions. There are just 2 more minutes left. So guys, if you want to download your participation certificate, which is very important because you got to participate in the LinkedIn contest. So this certificate, if you want to download, what you got to do is go to Elite CISO's website, click on events, click on upcoming events. You will come to this section over here. Click on CPE certificate. This will take you to a Google form. Put your email address where you want the certificate to come. Put your full name. And the secret to download the certificate is YOGA yoga. Okay. If you put yoga, you will get the certificate like this over your email. This certificate is required to participate in the LinkedIn contest and the giveaway is Apple AirPod. I've already explained about that. So let me move the screen a little bit. Okay. So you got to know how to download it and why yoga, because if you go to Social Initiative and CISO Fitness, you will see that Elite CISO has got a very active fitness group as well. We have been running yoga and Elite Fit activity from past almost 2 years now. So if you want to participate in a new fresh batch, which is starting from Monday, the yoga group that is 6:30 a.m. to 7:30 in the morning. That's a fresh batch. If you want to participate in that, go over here and click on register now and fill your nomination for the yoga form. How do you get to this place? Simply go to Social Initiative, click on CISO Fitness, and you will come to this particular page over here. Now, as I mentioned that we will do a early registration for our session with Thales. So what I'm going to do is we have an upcoming session with Thales Security on 13th of May, Friday, right? So it is for Delhi NCR and we can accommodate about 50 participants, 50 CIO CISOs in this session. So I'm going to paste the registration link on the chat. This is the early access, guys. So you can go ahead and register for it now. Okay, it is first come, first serve basis. So go ahead, register for it. Now, last but not the least that everybody is kind of waiting for is the Wheel of Fortune. So we got about 340 registration, 350 registration for it. After filtering the non-business IDs, we have got 305 people for this Wheel of Fortune. There are 3 sound bars as giveaway. This list is for everyone who registered. So we will spin it only once, right? It will randomly pick one winner. Second spin will be for the people who liked and supported Elite CISO post on LinkedIn. So if you support us, you get the leverage, right? So I'm going to spin it. Good luck, guys. Let's see who is the first winner is going to be. If your name comes, go to the chat and say, yes, you are there in this session. So Mr. Amjad Sheikh, Mr. Amjad from Shriram Life Insurance, if you are there in this session, go to the chat and say yes, that you are in this session. I don't see any yes coming in as yet. Okay, now I'm going to delete all these entries and post only the names who supported Elite CISO's LinkedIn post. You will see how less cluttered it looks. So only 122 folks over here. This is for the second win, second spin. I'm spinning it now. If your name comes, again, go to the chat and say yes. And it is Mr. Manoj Arora from Relicare. Manoj is member of Delhi chapter. So Manoj, if you are there, go to the chat and say yes. Let me see if anybody is saying yes on the chat or not. I have not seen any yes coming yet. So two soundbars are gone. Now I'm spinning for the third one. Third one is Arindam Singha Roy, again from Delhi chapter. So Arindam, if you are there, go to the chat and say yes. Perfect. Do I see any yes coming in? Not really. Sanjay ji, Delhi chapter is the WhatsApp group of Delhi NCR CIO CISOs. Manoj is there. Yes, great Manoj. Congratulations. Arindam is also there. Congratulations. Just one thing to mention, guys. I'm not saying for Manoj or Arindam. We see a spike in joiners around 11:45, 11:50 because they know that we are going to spin the wheel. But if you join, we will look at the registration data and the attendance data and joining data. If you joined after 11:45 a.m., you are not eligible for the win. Just wanted to put it out there. With this, thanks a lot everyone for joining in. Thanks Harmeet and the Safe Security team. Amazing session that you guys have delivered. Looking forward to more sessions in future. Thanks everyone. Bye for now. 3 minutes late, but I apologize. Okay, guys, I'm ending the session now. Thank you and meeting.